So going back from WWE to New Japan Pro Wrestling, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Sonata has had some very, very interesting comments about the next generation of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He says that it lacks sex appeal. Um, I wanted to know if you agreed with that stance or not.
When I first saw this in the notes, I'm thinking, is he referring to the females? And then I actually tried reading the actual source, and it seemed like he was actually shockingly referring to the males.
Mm-hmm.
And then to think about it, sex sells. Like sex is kind of like the driving force in like everything that you want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
It works in music, it works in films, it works with clothes, it works with everything. Um, and then I always refer to like what I saw growing up. I mean, growing up, I saw some bomb ass looking females that I don't regularly see, and I saw some men that were like living life action figures. And I thought about it to myself because, again, it does sound like a very outdated boomer comment to make in this day and age. But then I think to myself sometimes, like, I tolerate what I'm seeing on screen because I grew up with the privilege of seeing wrestlers that looked the way that they looked. And as a kid, I loved it because, again, they look larger than life. Which made me want to look like them or just to be around them. It just, they look like heroes to me. But then you come to find out the pressures that they were underneath to look that way. The females were underneath really strict diets or had to go underneath the needle. And then the men were stabbing themselves with needles. And then, um, I understand. So I feel like as a modern day fan, I tolerate it because I understand what they had to go through to maintain that look and why it's safer for them to look like a Smojo. But then I think on the flip side, I have friends that know that I'm into wrestling. And they're like, oh, Mo, you really like wrestling. I want to understand why you like it, you know? And they want to watch. And I'm thinking, what's something I could put on where they'll actually like care to look at it? And I honestly, like, my brain thought to go to the bloodline, and I didn't even think about it, but I thought about it, and I was just like, well, it has a lot of good-looking people, so if I want to put a female on, if she can't get the whole storyline going on, she gonna see Roman's fighting behind himself, and she's going to be intrigued off of that, and it might just grab her attention, and she wants to keep watching. Because again, sex sells. It's the reason why they chose this man to be the replacement for John Cena. He had the look. And then he worked on his look on his own and then made his look even like more perfected. They know that. These wrestlers know to do that. They know that they want to get paid more. They want to be put in more ads. Like they got to work on this stuff. I think Drew McIntyre even did that. Drew McIntyre had a very basic look and then he jacked himself up. And then before you know it, I think now he's in a movie film, which shout out to him for that. And he's in countless ads, whether or not he's in an important storyline or not, just because Drew has like this phenomenal look. So it sounds like a tone deaf comment to say, and you want to shame him for it. But I'm just like, he's not necessarily wrong if you want to grab new audiences and new eyes. Like, think about Jade Cargill, right? She was basically put into AEW because of the way she looked. And she acknowledges that in her freaking tweets. That her looks, her ass, puts asses in seats. And she's not wrong because we saw her on day one. We're like, who's this fine behind black woman with the blonde wig on and the fire red fit? Like, she looks like a champion. Put the belt on her. And we all got in on it. And then she had a freaking feud with Bow Wow. She ended up on the Shade Room. And just, even when she's not in AEW, she's still trending because she just looks fucking good. Like, I do think he's not wrong because sex does sell. So, man, I'm not against it. I want to have on an argument to be against it, but he's not wrong because it's incorporated into everything that we do. I always, when I think of sex sells, I think about how useless Ice Spice kind of is as an artist, but how she understands her brand on sex appeal and she just sticks to that. So it just works. And I can't be mad at it because Shawty knows her brand. It's the same thing with wrestling. But I'm ready to be stoned. So Jordan, give me your
I'm not gonna.
take.
I'm not gonna stone you. I actually agree with your take. I, for one, like Ice Spice, so I'm not even gonna.
I
But
actually love her, but I think she's
I.
useless at the same time.
But here's my take on it. Right, like when we talk about who has the look, when we talk about a superstar's kind of profitability and their marketability, we're talking about people who have sex appeal. Is what it really boils down to. Every time we see a WWE superstar on screen, and when I say on screen, I mean representing the company in other avenues other than WWE, they look good. Every time you see a superstar online, every time you see a superstar representing the company, it's a superstar that looks good, that dresses well, that's well spoken. You know what I mean? And I feel like Sonata is not off the mark because if you look at every single company and even every single boom period in companies outside of WWE, it was spearheaded by someone who was, attractive in that culture. Finn Balor is a good looking dude. When Bullet Club started, you can see why people were attracted to it because there was an attractive leader, because Tamatanga, who's an attractive man, was a part of that faction, right? Then we can look at any other instance in wrestling. Most factions were led by very, very attractive people at that time, whether it was the NWO of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, whether it was DX with Triple H and Shawn Michaels did Playgirl, bro. Like all these people had a certain level of sex appeal that was attached to them.
Melina with
And
Eminem.
who?
Melina with Eminem, like she
Oh yeah,
was the selling
yes,
point
yes,
for the whole
yes.
entire faction. She got the guys
So
over.
so I believe that sex appeal is a very, very big part of wrestling and especially entertainment as a whole, right? And so I think that Sonata's comments just need to be taken very, very seriously because even in the context of New Japan Pro Wrestling, the people that we hold at such a high standard are people who are very attractive. Kazuchika Okada, handsome dude. Tanahashi, handsome dude. And then on top of that, their wrestling ability kind of brings them to the level of prominence that they are. But let the record show a lot of these guys that are heavily pushed are people who were good looking people. And so when Sonata is saying that you need to have a level of sex appeal, I think sex appeal is important. Now, I'm not saying that you have to look, you got to have a certain type of body because I feel like sex appeal can come in many forms and in many shapes and different sizes. However, it you the it is the sex appeal and you need to have it. And I feel like if a company's going to be successful, it needs to be built on the backs of the guys and the girls who have that sex appeal. That doesn't mean that they have to be overly sexualized. That doesn't mean that they have to be, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't got to be pimped out, but they got to have you have to have some sex appeal to you. So I actually do 100% agree with your point. But we want to know how y'all feel about this whole shindig. Do you believe that that wrestling companies need sex appeal in order to survive and to have longevity in the business?